chaos regularly, or do you feel like you're in a crazy calm place? So, today we're going to talk about these things and more with my guests today. But first, I wanted to let you know that my name is Rose Cayazzo, also known as Jackson Hole Rose, and I am the owner and founder of the live streaming Secret Circle. And you might say, oh, what the heck is that? So the live streaming secret circle, if you can say it 5 times fast, you're in. Just kidding. So it's a place where women in business can feel comfortable learning about going live and what types of business messages they need to basically make more sales and bring in their ideal clients. So that's what I do. But of course, today we're going to talk with DiAnne about what she does and how different it is from what a lot of women in business do, which is why I have her on the show today. So, DiAnne, thank you and welcome to my show. I'm so glad you're here. Please introduce yourself to my audience.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Rose. I'm very happy to be on this with you and get to share a little bit about what I do. And I'm very inspired by you. I have to start by saying that, like, just what you've done and giving this opportunity to people and women like me is an honor. So I'm very grateful. So thank you.
Thank you. That
Yay!
means a
And
lot. Thank you.
yes, I mean it. I mean it very sincerely because I feel like sometimes even with like what I do, it's we know like we're very confident in ourselves and what we can bring to the world, but I think sometimes to have it reflected back to us means something very powerful and we don't always realize it. So I like to start with that. But I am DiAnne. I call myself in some circles a chaos coach, other circles the director of chaos, just depending on who I'm talking to. But I specialize in helping women, specifically entrepreneurial women who are going through events that feel like the rug got yanked out from under them. And you are strong and you are capable and you know you can get through it, but you are going through something that you've never gone through before and you don't know how to. And so you need that support and that guidance to really be able to figure out how to navigate what you're being presented with, whatever storm is being thrown at you. And so I work to help you figure out what that looks like for you because my vast experience in chaos unfortunately has taught me that chaos is very different for everyone. And so there's no cookie cutter solution, there's no magic formula, but there are processes and practices that you can learn that really help you get through it in your own way that are really true in alignment with where you are in your life.
And I agree. Anytime chaos comes into my life, it can either come right away or it could like creep and creep and creep. And then all of a
Yeah.
sudden you're like, I'm in the chaos. But, my live stream show here is to talk about live streaming and how women in business can do more for their business by being the face of their business live on camera. That means no production, no stitching, no cutesy little music or filters or stickers, these types of things. So, I really wanted to have you on because when we had our conversation first, you spoke about a podcast that you were planning to relaunch, but keep the same name, which I love, called Crazy Calm. Is that right?
Crazy calm. Yes,
Tell
crazy
us
calm.
more about this podcast that you're launching. So exciting.
Yeah, so Crazy Calm, the name actually kind of, I knew I wanted to launch a podcast. I did it last year. And I was in a different space of my business and my world and my life, where I wanted to share how to navigate through the craziness of the world and doing it in a way that's very authentic, that really acknowledges this is not okay. I don't like what's happening. I'm frustrated. I'm stressed out, all the things, but finding a way to be calm within it. And so the name kind of just came to me as I was starting to process what it was going to help others with. And so now in this new version of my business, I realized it's time to launch it, to relaunch it, and to really share with my listeners in that show how to navigate the craziness of life from a calm perspective, not from saying everything's positive, not from pretending everything's okay because it's not, but from doing it in a way that helps you move through, especially when the hurricane and everything's swirling around and you feel like you're out of control. It's absolutely crazy to choose to find calm within that storm.
It's so true. And so these types of things that you're going to discuss on your podcast, will they be real time, not real time in live, or having people's stories that you're going to talk about in particular. So
Yeah.
women and men that are comfortable, I guess, talking about their chaotic stories.
Yeah, it's going to be a mix of all of the above, essentially. So the initial episodes that we're launching, my co-host Lauren and I, she's amazing. She's a heart-centric marketing coach. So
I love
she's
it.
co-hosting with me. Initially, just because we both have similar audiences and yet we do very different things. And so it's a way of supporting people through the craziness of life. And so we will be sharing things that we've experienced in our journeys that just kind of build that awareness of what chaos can look like. Because we're happy to share our stories. And then
Yes.
we will have guests on that I'll talk to and really communicate through them what their version of chaos is and the way that they can support and the way they've lived it. And then you've inspired me to do some live stuff, which I never thought of doing before. And so I'm not sure how that works yet, but this is one of my first experiences with it. So it's something that I definitely want to do because just exactly like you said, I think video in and of itself connects us in a different way than just like a post or a reel or something that you see on passing as you're scrolling on Instagram or Facebook, whatever. Video is like a way of feeling more connected, and then I think that live takes it to that next level where it feels real, like you said, it feels like this is actually happening. It's not pre-recorded, it's not scripted, it's not prompted. It's just me authentically being here and seeing where the conversation takes us. And I think that's a deeper way for us to connect with our audiences rather than just re-recording it.
Exactly. And when you start getting into people's stories that are so deep like that, they're very personal stories. Like I've actually thought maybe like in the last month, would I tell that story? So let me tell you a quick little story, if you don't mind, because it was a very chaotic time in my life. I have not
Mhm.
shared this with anyone publicly. So I also feel like this is a little just sneak peek of something that I went through that I read in the newspaper the other day. So I'm sure everyone's newspapers are different. You live in Canada, correct?
Yes.
I live in the United States of America. And so sometimes our articles, you're not sure if they're true. They're supposed to be vetted for true, this and that. And so I read through the article and it disturbed me because it brought up a chaotic time of mine that I thought, wow, if this is really happening to people, I understand how they feel. So in this news article, it said these people are being basically fired from their jobs because they're in a place called um they're like in probation, right? So
Okay.
people are in this probationary period, but apparently for the United States of America and the people we hire in our national parks, I've heard that they stay in a probationary period literally for 1 year. So it doesn't mean like you're on probation. It means that you're in the system of the government and they place you in this special area called probation. And so these people were all fired. And it was noted in the paper that these people were fired because here's the kicker. They did a bad job, but that wasn't true.
Hmm.
And so I immediately went back to my corporate life, which was pretty chaotic towards the end in one
Mhm.
of the jobs I had. We'll just say the president of the company that I worked for later after I left decided to take all the money and move to Sweden. Okay. This is the kind of company I was dealing with. But what happened was they were actually writing into my review things that were false.
Mhm.
Okay. Take that in a minute. As a woman in business, right? I didn't really realize I was an entrepreneur yet, but as a woman in business that is working so hard, especially I was in the tech field, so I was working with 95, maybe 97% men at that point,
Mhm.
and men were writing my reviews and they were writing false information into my
Mhm.
reviews. And it was a hard time because it felt like all of a sudden this chaos was running about me because it was like, well, I've never done that. And why are they saying that? And I thought I could trust these people. And, all the questions that come in when it comes to something chaotic, literally just fizzling around you. And so I took my own steps and I did a great job of how I handled that. And to think about, I think I was only 29 years old at the time, but I basically went into my manager and I said, "This is not real. You can say whatever you want to me, but I'm going to come in every week and I'm going to show you how each piece that you wrote in here, what I've done to correct whatever you're saying that I'm doing." And I did that and I had him sign it. And you could tell I had thrown a monkey wrench into the works because here's what I found out later. They were going to fire everyone at the lower levels by doing this. And they were going to hire people from Texas Instruments so that they could have higher level learners at the bottom level working to help their company. So I'm
Oh.
not afraid to say it's Symbol Technologies, which does not exist anymore, but it was repurchased by Motorola, and then Motorola allowed Zebra Technologies to repurchase it. So I'm not afraid to say what happened to me because actually it ended up being a whole sexual harassment lawsuit because I said to them, well, I have this email of this inappropriate stuff. So besides you putting wrong information into my review, I'm also going to go this route. And well, that fixed things pretty quick. And so I left there and got my little stipend or whatever you want to call it for a couple of months and found a new job. And that was that. But I'll tell you, being in that chaos, it's very hard, especially when you feel like you can't share with people. And
Yeah.
so that's why I absolutely love what you do. And I absolutely feel like the video of you is so important working through these issues with women that are either willing to share their story or if you are willing to share the story as Jane Doe so that we can learn from these stories and how they worked through them. Now, you had mentioned, which is very exciting for me, that you are going to maybe open up a new YouTube live stream or YouTube channel, right? Let's
YouTube channel for sure. Yes. You're
yes.
inspiring me to do the live, which is kind of a new thing. But
Great.
yeah, YouTube channel for sure. Because like I said, social media is still a relatively new platform for me, believe it or not. Like I haven't really spent a lot of time on it, mostly because I feel for me, I find it hard to connect with people in that way. I'm much more like the chatting, talking, meeting someone, whether it's virtual, whether it's in person, whatever. It's much more the relationship that I'm building that means something to me, even in the way that I work with my clients. And I can't do that when I'm posting something on Instagram or when I'm watching a reel. And so when I was thinking about how to really get visibility and how to reach as many women as I can help, I realized that the podcast and video podcast for sure. So video podcast, um, and YouTube is really where I'm most aligned because I can talk and I can talk to people like you and we can share our stories and we can get the energy going where, especially because I think in chaos, and I mean, you speak for this in your experience, like you said, you felt alone and it's like you don't know who you can trust. Maybe you feel like you can't talk to anybody. And so the community that I've built is a private community. It's a safe space where women can come and get that support from me, from the rest of us that are going through things that feel like no one else is. And yet the way of getting through it, believe it or not, is very similar, but it's also a way for you to do it in your own comfort level, right? So it's not like a perfect polished system of like step one, two, three. I don't believe in that. Like
Right.
that's not chaos. Like chaos is an actual hurricane where things are just spiraling out of control. And you need systems like what you went through when you're in that exact moment and you're like, oh my God, this is exploding and that is exploding. And I have to deal with this and this is wrong. And I don't agree with this. It's hitting you all at once. You don't have time to get into a program that's going to take 3 weeks or a few hours to learn something. You need something that's quick. And so even my podcast episodes, they're 10 minutes. That's it. Because you need something fast. You need help right away. You don't have time to learn anything complicated. You need something that you could have used back then to say, okay, I'm going to filter through the chaos. I'm going to filter through immediately right now in my mind so I can calmly and confidently step forward while I'm pissed off, while I'm fighting for myself, while I'm standing up against the people coming at me in that case, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. So I'm wondering, this is one of the reasons why women delay and aren't so sure about live streaming because they feel like maybe I'm going to be judged, maybe I'll make a mistake, maybe someone's going to say something bad. I've had women come to me that say, well, I have an ex-boyfriend, I'm kind of afraid that he's going
Mhm.
to show up in this live and say something inappropriate. And this is a very real thing that can happen to certain women, right? Like, I've got a lot of ex-boyfriends. I don't worry about them until I guess they find me. But, a simple boop, boop, you're good, you're done, for me feels comfortable because I'm comfortable with the technology, but not everyone is. So
Mhm.
tell me, like, for a woman who is just delaying going on camera for their business, what would you say a takeaway that they could have that would make them feel comfortable and say, okay, maybe I can start going either live or doing video, being the face of my business and getting the message out there that I really need to get out there. Do you have like a little secret or a story or something that you want to share with us so that women in business can really just be kind of motivated by us?
I like that. Um, yeah, I think my number one thing is just do it afraid. Like, I'm afraid often, like, just because I've got things figured out in some ways, people look at me like, oh, well, you've been through all this stuff. Oh, you must have, like, you must just be so put together and everything's perfect now and you've gotten through the storm. And I laugh and I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm still in the freaking storm. Like, it's still going. So I'm doing all of this afraid. And it doesn't mean that I can't figure out ways to go through it, but you have to show up. Like when you're literally in a storm, like a real physical storm, whether it's a hurricane, a tornado, a snowstorm, wherever you live in the world, whatever storm you're going through, you can't just sit there and expect that you're going to be safe without moving. You have to take action, whether it's to protect yourself if you have to stay still, or whether it's getting up and running away if you need to, or whether it's running into it because you're going to get through it faster. You have to move. And so most times we're moving afraid, and that's okay because once we take that step and do it afraid, then next time we're less afraid. And then the next time we're less afraid. And then when something comes at us that really terrifies the whatever out of us, we're like, wait, I've been here before and I did it afraid. I can do this again. And that confidence builds. So I think I've got a lot of reasons to be afraid going live that I don't even have to get into, but I'm afraid. But it's one of those things that it's like fear can hold us back, or it can be kind of that, it can ignite you into saying, okay, I'm shaking. You can't see me shaking while I'm on this right now. Like you don't see that maybe, but it's there and it's okay. Because I think a lot of times I was always taught it's like, oh, well, project confidence and you need to make sure that people feel, good about like listening. They're not going to trust you if you're afraid. And I'm like, well, my people will. Like my people are good. Like they're going to get that transparency and that honesty. And so I think for anyone of your audience that's listening, like do it afraid. Like do it and it's okay. We have to normalize that fear. Like it's okay to be afraid, but do it anyway.
And you just gave it a completely different spin on words because I've heard this from women before. Like, it gets easier every time you do it, but it means something different when you say, we're walking through being the afraid, like, this too shall pass, almost like, those types of things. And I really love your presence on camera. I think you have a very special, warm, inviting, just representation of yourself when you're on camera. And I think that women will be drawn to that and want to listen to what you have to say. So I'm super excited that you are going to relaunch your podcast called Crazy Calm,
There you
which I
go.
love, and starting a new YouTube channel. Very exciting stuff. And also just, you know, I feel like I say that a lot, just do it, right? It's like Nike. Please F perfect and just do it. So my audience loves when I say F perfect, which I also say could mean forget perfect, right? Doesn't have to mean the other F word. But being from America, it's kind of how we work. But
Yeah.
F perfect. And so how I'd love to wrap up our show before um we do that though, I want to make sure that people know how to connect with you. So if you let us know like where to find your new show or where we can find you on your website or take, I know you have a free course too about kind of getting out of the chaos, however you want people to find you, please let my audience know.
Yes. Well, the my company is Estella Luna. So I don't know if I can spell it out or you can put it in whatever your show notes are, but estellaluna.inc is my website. And on that website is right away a link to get to the free mini course that you were talking about that's called the Chaos Filter. And yeah, it literally takes 10 minutes a day for a couple of days. And it actually works. Like I think about the story that you very graciously shared about what you went through. And I'm like, oh my God, if you had had this little technique in your brain, I know it would have helped you. And every person, because I have men and women that have gone through the chaos filter, every person that has gone through it, they're just like, whoa, that was like an experience. Like, yeah, it's not just a mini course, it's not just something that you learn. It really is an immersive experience that you'll never forget that will help you as you go forward. So yeah, my website's really the best. And then you said Crazy Calm. So it's on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And the new episodes will be coming out on April 7th. So yeah,
Great.
that's it.
Excellent. And I make sure in the captions that everything is written out properly. So I'll make
Thank
sure
you.
everything is spelled properly so that people can find you.
Awesome.
So now to wrap it up, I would love for you, if you believe this, to say F perfect, because really what it means to everyone is just do it. Just get yourself on camera, F perfect, move forward. And so I always love my guests to say F perfect at the end.
Well, F perfect.
Thank you so much for being here. It means so much to me and the women that are starting to follow to see how they can represent themselves well on camera.
Awesome.
And yeah, it's just one of those things that I do, which things will be moving and shaking and changing a little bit with what I offer here, but I always like to have the women that are using live streaming or thinking about it and how that can move other women forward.
I
But
love
for
that.
now, we say F perfect and keep it real because in this day and age, you have to stand out by streaming live because it is your authentic edge in the AI age. Thank you, Diane.
Thank you so much, Rose.
Boom.